Chapel Hill, North Carolina at one restaurant, and I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
So first, tell me a little bit about your background and how you got here to one restaurant, because you guys have a very interesting path to North Carolina.
So we met 11 years ago in Colorado. We actually began dating, working in the same restaurant. After Colorado, we spent some time in large cities like Chicago and New York. Did a little bit of traveling abroad and lived in Spain for a few years. That always allotted us opportunities individually. When we moved to California, that was the first really experience we had working together. And we decided that for us to take the next step, it was important for us to be kind of very cohesive in what we wanted and having our vision kind of come together as one. The opportunity arose. North Carolina is kind of almost an untapped resource in regards to the use of chef's experience with what's available as far as product and clientele. So it seemed like the right fit at the right time.
And you guys, before coming here, you know, you mentioned the places in passing and the city names, but you've worked at some of the best restaurants in the world. Per se, El Bulli, helped open Alinea, you know, and then obviously in California. You know, how did you say, okay, we're going to go from having all of these experiences and bring them to, I would say, one place, but then it sounds like I'm making a pun, but, you know, how did you decide, okay, we're going to go from all of these experiences to North Carolina?
Coming to one just kind of felt right. We've spent so much time working for other people that to evolve, the next step would have been for us to do a culminated menu, which was the goal in the end anyways.
And so what's amazing is, you know, you guys had never worked or lived in North Carolina before. You came here. What was appealing to you about this area and about North Carolina specifically, after having seen so many restaurants in so many different parts of the world?
I mean, I think it always was a motivation to be able to build from the ground up. And yeah, it was, in a way, almost a risk, because neither one of us had ever been out here before. But there is a very strong energy focused around food. There's an appreciation for where it comes from and how it's translated into a dining experience. And there's actually very few places in this country that do that well. So being able to kind of be one of the founding participants in that idea is exciting. So that was probably the main
And the food scene here, I mean, with all of the chefs, they've been so welcoming. The farmers are incredible. They're the hardest working people, I think, in the industry. Was definitely a lure to bring any chef, I think, to this area. Especially, it's a triangle. I mean, you have Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Carborough, Pittsburgh. And there's so many places around here that you don't even realize. They're little gems and hole-in-the-wall places, but they're fantastic.
You guys are sort of part of a movement of a lot of chefs and fine dining trained chefs to leave the bigger cities and sort of bring up the food scenes in smaller cities. Why do you think that that's so appealing to chefs like yourselves with such experience to then say, you know what, we're not going to open our first restaurant in New York, we want to be in this town?
I mean, I think that's definitely been almost a European approach for a very long time.
Right. A lot of great restaurants in small towns.
Exactly, and I think it's always been a culture that the best chefs and the best restaurants are in large metropolitan areas. But there's no reason why we can't change that trend and go and use your experience from those mega restaurants and bring that and translate that to another experience in a smaller area or a different market or, you know, a new town or whatever the case may be. It's something that's definitely worth fighting for. I mean, there's a certain level of competition in New York that I don't think really exists anywhere else.
Right.
But there's also a chance to be an individual and kind of have your own voice if you're not competing with the masses in a way.
When you think about, okay, we're not in the glare of some of these other places, and we can also experiment without having so many other restaurants around us opening and closing all the time. Is there something appealing to that as well, kind of being able to do your own thing? You've seen so many places and so many styles, to now build your own style away from kind of where a lot of the other restaurants of similar quality are?
It's definitely helpful. I mean, if you open up a restaurant in, you know, the middle of Manhattan, you're already under the spotlight from day one. There is a little bit of an opportunity to kind of find your own voice and make mistakes, you know. I think having that time allotted to trial and error, it's helpful. It does nothing but raise your game in the end. So.
And how do you find that the audience of the restaurant is compared to restaurants that you've come from? Have you enjoyed sort of the diners of the area? Do you find that you get a lot of tourists? Like, where do you see your dining scene come from?
A little bit of both.
Yeah,
actually.
a little bit of everything. I mean, we're in a college town, so you see a lot of the, alumni and the faculty come in. You see a lot of RTP, the Research Triangle Parkway. I mean, there's a lot of people that come in, and it's an influx of being in a great area like this. You get a lot of locals, and you get a lot of a very diverse amount of people that come in here, which is great.
And let's talk about the products of North Carolina, because I think it's such a unique area. You know, you have the ocean close by, you have the mountains close by, you're kind of in the middle of that. How have you found that you're inspired and that your work shifts around the products that you have available here?
There's this very strong collaboration of those three ideas, both the accessibility to terrain of the mountains and the coastal plains. That's really kind of what drives our food, I guess. There's a strong approach to both areas, and it's a lot of communication with people who grow the food, who participate in that part of it. That was one of the main draws of coming down here.
I think what's also fun is being able to teach or coax farmers or fishermen or something for the lesser of the known ingredients or fish or anything like that. So to want to source out lamb hearts, for instance, and to see their expression and say, people use this? So yeah, it actually can be very delicious. Come into the restaurant and let's show you. Then they kind of get that sense and the idea of the direction that we try to go to. So it's fun being able to kind of teach them as well as they teach us.
Yeah. And how do you describe the style of the restaurant? You know, when people say to you, what is this restaurant? Because it obviously doesn't have it's not easily boxed in, you know, so how do you describe it?
Which is a great thing,
which is wonderful, right. But I mean, it also makes it, you know, when people say, oh, this is a new restaurant and it's barbecue, yeah, you know, and obviously this isn't that. So how do you both, sort of on the national scene and in the local scene, how do you express to people what it is that you're trying to do?
It's definitely a nod to progressive American with a little bit of a Southern touch. I mean, something, for instance, like pimento cheese is very recognizable here. We'll kind of do a little twist and make it something a little bit more unique. I mean, it's always kind of fun to play to the place you're in.
And how has the restaurant changed since you opened it, and where do you see yourself going with the menu, with the restaurant, as time goes on?
I think the menu will never be settled. I think we'll always, we get very tired of plating the same things over and over again and seeing it. It's like, okay, I've had enough of the beef. So yeah, exactly. So it actually is great because we change it whenever we want to. And the shift in diners has been dramatic from day one to guests that would send back the snacks that we do at the beginning of the meal saying, I didn't order this, to being able to properly educate them and say, try it. I think that we've kind of gotten a little bit more of a following that would be a little bit more daring, I guess, and to let us just cook for them and to come and just have a conversation with the people they're with the food that we're giving them, and then kind of without words with us as well.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us about one restaurant here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.